Marcus drove to pick me up. He was always a man of reserved, almost ascetic demeanor. Yet, he allowed his new secretary to ride in his passenger seat. I knew then that this marriage couldn't be saved. That day, Marcus drove to pick me up. When I opened the passenger seat door, I froze. A young, beautiful girl was sitting there, smiling sweetly at me. "Hello, Grace." The girl greeted me politely, but made no move to get up. I narrowed my eyes, my gaze shifting to Marcus. He was looking down, taking a call, oblivious to the brewing tension. We were supposed to go to an auction together today. I had looked forward to this date with him, dressing up meticulously, only to find someone else in his passenger seat. "Hello, Grace. My name is Chloe. I'm Marcus's new assistant." The girl's lips curved into a warm smile, her two shallow dimples making her look exceptionally sweet. "I heard you two were going to an exclusive gala and auction tonight, so I asked Marcus to bring me along to see the world." "Don't worry. I won't disturb you." My heart instantly sank to rock bottom. I knew this cool, perfect man too well. He always maintained a certain distance, never allowing others to easily encroach on his space. We came together through a strategic alliance. After much consideration, we chose each other. Outsiders joked that I was destined for a marriage in name. But after we officially became a couple, Marcus would hold me, his eyes gentle, his eyes would redden with passion. He used to say, "You are my wife, and we are one. You are naturally different from anyone else." Today, something seemed to have changed, too, but I was not a parasitic vine, quietly enduring. I was Grace, who got angry without caring whose face she upset. "Get out," I demanded coldly, showing no mercy. The girl froze for a moment. She hadn't expected me to directly give her a wake-up on our first meeting. Perhaps my tone was too harsh. Chloe seemed momentarily at a loss. "I'm so sorry, Grace." The girl's voice was tearful, and she slunk into the back seat, looking mortified. Marcus finished his call just then and looked at us. He realized I was angry. A look of helplessness mixed with indulgence crossed his face. He leaned over and buckled my seatbelt. Noticing that the seat had been adjusted, I impatiently readjusted it. All the fuss made me furious. This is so annoying. Why would anyone dare to adjust my passenger seat? The air in the car grew cold, and the girl was too scared to speak. Marcus's brow furrowed slightly, and he suggested calmly, "If you're not feeling well today, we can just go home." In the rearview mirror, the girl was silently shedding tears. I was utterly exasperated. "Chloe, right. I'm not in the mood to go anymore. You can take a taxi back. Marcus and I are going home." The girl's face turned pale, and she weakly looked at Marcus. He had no intention of coming to her rescue. Chloe got out of the car, looking utterly dejected. Marcus would never make me lose face in front of outsiders. He always knew how to control his emotions. That's why he suggested we go home. Any issues? We would resolve at home. This had been our unspoken understanding for years. She's just a college student fresh out of school. Why bother getting so upset with her? Marcus pulled me into his arms. This is the first time. Marcus seemed puzzled. "What? In all these years? This is the first time you've let another woman sit in your passenger seat?" He hadn't realized this was what bothered me. Everyone in this circle knew how exceptional Marcus was. The women who adored him were countless, yet he maintained his integrity, remaining untouched by the temptations around him. Marcus chuckled, gently ruffling my hair. "I can't believe I actually made you jealous for once." He leaned in to kiss me, his nose brushing my cheek. "She's my subordinate, nothing more. I have no other relationship with her." Marcus cradled my face, looking into my eyes, and promised me in a low voice, "For a woman's intuition is always accurate." Even though I had only met Chloe once, my gut told me this girl harbored other intentions for Marcus. I initially thought the initial wake-up would be enough. However, I never expected that the crescent diamond, which was meant for me from the exclusive gala and auction, would appear around the girl's neck the very next day. Sarah, Marcus's chief assistant, sent me a photo and an Instagram screenshot. In the photo, the crescent diamond hung around Chloe's fair neck, making her look even more delicate and charming. The girl's eyes were red and swollen, yet a smile played on her lips. She must have cried all night after going home and received a gift from a certain someone. The screenshot showed Chloe's Instagram. Marcus said that a girl should be strong even when she's been wronged. Wiping away my tears, yes, my Marcus. It was accompanied by a few cute flexing arm emojis and a picture of the necklace in its box. In that moment, my blood practically froze. Although it was hard to admit, I had been provoked to the point of nearly losing my composure. The feeling was awful. Like my cherished white handkerchief had been stained with a spot of mosquito blood. This was a strange feeling for me. I even considered not caring about the facts, just hopping into a yellow Ferrari, driving at 180 miles per hour, and slapping that woman twice, but looking at my hand. I felt it was beneath me to even acknowledge such a low-quality, manipulative person. I called Evelyn at Hermes. Evelyn's voice was bubbling with unrestrained joy. She promised me over the phone, "Grace, don't you worry, even if I have to empty Westbrook City today, I'll get all the merchandise ready and make sure it's delivered to you." So, that very day, before work even ended, everyone at Vance headquarters, all the executive assistants and executive office staff, a total of 46 women, excluding Chloe, received a generous gift from Marcus's wife, a Hermes worth $120,000. While the unit price couldn't compare to the million auction, the sheer number of recipients ensured everyone is treated. Sarah was a smooth operator. She required each person to post on their Instagram with the caption, "Marcus's wife says every girl deserves better." Clenching my fist, yes, my Marcus's wife. Naturally, the girls who received gifts were happy to comply. As assistants and executive office staff, they were practically the center of corporate for the entire firm. Now, having received a gift from Marcus's wife, who wouldn't be overjoyed to actively post pictures with the caption? Some individuals even added a line at the end of their caption, "Marcus's wife really knows how to play the game." While individual directors' assistants might not have significant influence within their ability to spread information across various departments was formidable. Within half an hour, the entire firm knew that Marcus's wife had given everyone Hermes. As for the reason, the major corporate groups were already buzzing with speculation. Chloe's face was pale, as if she had suffered a great insult. With red-rimmed eyes, she retreated to the restroom and took off the diamond necklace. Two colleagues who came in to touch up their makeup saw her and scoffed, their laughter full of unspoken meaning. Chloe was mortified. She lowered her head and hurried out of the restroom, the mocking laughter behind her growing more brazen, her cheeks burning. She put the necklace back in its box and returned it to Marcus. Untouched. Marcus had just finished a video call with a partner. He saw the girl, who had clearly been crying again, holding the necklace box and staring forlornly at her toes. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, puzzled. Before could speak, tears began to flow. She choked back sobs, looking utterly pathetic. "Marcus, please take this necklace back. I can't accept it." A hint of displeasure crossed Marcus's stern face. His intuition told him something had definitely happened. But he didn't press her directly, he simply watched her in silence. Chloe pursed her lips, hesitating repeatedly, but finally spoke up, recounting everything that had happened in the office that day in detail. "Marcus, I'm so sorry. I always seem to cause you trouble. I only posted that Instagram to encourage myself. I don't know why Mrs. Vance found out." Chloe sobbed softly. "I didn't realize Mrs. Vance would be so angry." The woman looked as pitiful as a little white rabbit. "Marcus, I want to apologize to Mrs. Vance. I can explain everything to her in person." Marcus never had a habit of checking Instagram. His time was consumed by work, but as the CEO of the group, he knew all too well about the corporate within his usually stern face grew even colder. "I understand," the man said in a deep voice. 6 that night, Marcus brought Chloe home. The girl stood meekly behind him. "I asked Chloe to come so she could explain things in person." Marcus sighed. "Grace, Chloe is just my secretary. Because of yesterday's incident, I casually gave her a gift as an apology, nothing more." I stirred my silver spoon, finishing this light. "Grace, I'm sorry." Chloe's attitude was sincere, and she bowed to me, trembling and delicate. "This is the first time I've ever received such an expensive gift. I was so happy I lost my head. If I did something to upset you, please tell me, and I'll change it immediately." I raised an eyebrow. "Chloe, right?" The girl glanced at Marcus, seeming to draw courage from him, and slowly nodded. Watching her act like a naive newcomer fearlessly trying to go head-to-head with me, I only found it amusing. "I'm not your teacher or your boss. I don't have time to teach you how to behave, but I am Marcus's wife, so if anyone dares to be ambiguous with my husband, I won't give them a second chance." The girl had probably never encountered anyone as blunt as me, and her face grew even more awkward, leaving only a look of extreme vulnerability. "Grace, Chloe is here to apologize to you." Marcus knew my temperament and methods. Even if he didn't approve of my actions today, he understood my feelings. so he didn't lash out at me. He merely agreed to let Chloe apologize. He had already made a concession, hoping I would drop the misunderstanding. We were both intelligent people. Even a glance was enough to understand each other's intentions. I understand. I decided to give Marcus a chance. After all, he hadn't actually cheated, but there won't be a next time. No matter who it is. 7. You don't need to use such tactics against a young woman. Before bed, Marcus brought up the topic. You should have told me first. I sat at my dressing, brushing my hair, staring at the handsome man in the mirror. You knew I liked that necklace. Yet you gave it to another woman. Isn't it natural for me to be angry? I couldn't imagine if such a perfect person were to be sullied, whether I could still admire him as before. Marcus remained composed, going to the wet to pour himself a glass of ice water. She cried all night because of your misunderstanding. This morning, I saw her eyes were so swollen, so I casually gave her the necklace as an apology. There wasn't a single flaw in his story. I scrutinized him coldly for a long time. $2 million was a small sum for us. Casually giving it away was plausible. It just depended on whether the recipient was worth it. His fingertip tapped the marble. He was waiting for me to think. This was the first time Wed had a conflict in our relationship because of a third party. And our upbringing and demeanor made us both somewhat weary of such matters. We both valued decorum. Marcus, I love you. Marcus's fingers paused. He probably hadn't expected me to say that suddenly. Marcus, I love the pristine you. That's what makes you different from others. You never used to let women get close because you had a need for emotional purity. You wanted a clean marriage. I wasn't like that before, but your values influence me. Now, our life goals are the same. I hope our marriage never takes a wrong turn. Marcus sighed. I haven't. 8. Marcus was a remarkably clear-headed individual. He knew I minded, so he would no longer give Chloe any room for fantasy. Without the CEO's backing, Chloe, as an intern, could only start from the most basic tasks. She used to have opportunities to rotate at the reception desk. Now, Sarah wouldn't even put her on the work. I hadn't instructed anyone to ostracize her. Since had his boundaries, I fully trusted him. But such things didn't require any explicit instructions from me. There were plenty of people who engaged in opportunistic. Within half a month, the new secretary couldn't bear the work discrepancy and psychological and lost a significant amount of weight. The turning point came after an important executive meeting. That day, Chloe was assigned to clean the smaller room alone. The girl, dressed in a skirt, knelt on the floor, using a blade to painstakingly clean chewing gum from the carpet. Marcus, who had unexpectedly returned, witnessed this scene. Realizing someone was behind her, the embarrassed girl scrambled to her feet. Marcus's gaze was deep and cold. This silent scrutiny completely stripped Chloe of her pride. Marcus? The girl's tears involuntarily streamed down. She wasn't acting, wasn't pretending. Marcus was the son she admired but couldn't touch, and she was almost resigned to her marginalization. Now, to be seen in such a state by him, Chloe wished she could push Marcus away and run out. In half a month, the once cheerful and lively girl had become so fragile. This was the first time Marcus had ever lost his temper. He came home and slammed the glass of water I offered him onto the floor. Water splash. Why won't you let her go? Grace, I respect and love you, and I've tolerated your insults and harm towards her time and again. Does bullying the weak give you some kind of thrill? I remembered that while Marcus was studying overseas, his middle school sister had committed suicide by jumping from a building due to school bullying. This had become an indelible scar on his heart, making him deeply abhor such behavior. Grace, don't let me see you using these tactics to hurt others again, or I won't stand by idly. I stared blankly at the man, who had lost control of his emotions, for the first time since our marriage. Marcus, for another woman and for something I hadn't even done, lost his temper and yelled at me. The feeling was terrible. It was like glass shattering, like spilt water that could not be recovered. 9. Marcus promoted Chloe to personal assistant. At the same time, he swiftly and decisively fired Sarah, his chief assistant, for 7 years. You need to understand whose side you're really on. Sarah was stubborn in some ways. I'm working for you, Marcus. Some things, I'd privately contact Mrs. Vance about, but only for personal matters. He threw the work onto the desk in front of Sarah. Is that so? Such righteous indignation? Did your professional ethics also allow you to exploit your power to bully others? Sarah was speechless. She knew she'd been caught making things difficult for Chloe, and her face faltered. Marcus saw through it immediately, completely lacking in tolerance. Unable to distinguish right from wrong, and undermining colleagues for personal reasons. What qualifications do you have to remain as chief assistant? Sarah walked out of the office, defeated. The assistants outside looked crestfallen. Sarah, are you really leaving? Before large tears could well up, Sarah quickly wiped them away. Yes, I'm going. See you around. Girls? 10 Marcus and I were in an unprecedented Cold War. He was staying at an upscale. Chloe came to collect his change of clothes. To twist the knife, Marcus could be even more ruthless than I was if he wanted someone to suffer. The housekeeper had already received a call and packed his personal. Chloe was probably scared of my temper, so she took the suitcase the housekeeper had packed and quietly left in a taxi. Before leaving, she cautiously said, Grace, Marcus wants us to add each other as friends. If anything comes up later, you can contact me. Sarah was gone, and Chloe had taken over her job. There's nothing to contact her about. Tell him to get as far away as possible. Chloe didn't understand why I could still be so unyielding. Even with Marcus staying at an upscale, there was confusion in her eyes, but even more so, a hint of glee. The housekeeper shook her head, kindly trying to persuade me. Grace, why don't you just back down? Go apologize to Marcus. You two never even used to argue. How did things suddenly get so bad? The housekeeper had been with the Vance for over a decade. After spending so much time together, there was certainly affection. He was waiting for me to admit my mistake and apologize, wasn't he? How ridiculous. Why should I apologize? 11 Marcus never came back home, but Instagram updated frequently, mostly about her itinerary with Marcus, Chanel custom gown, private gala, the fireworks at the summit, evening from the luxury, photo with the CEO of Evergreen, and so on, all of them marveling at how meeting the right person could unlock so many first experiences in life. This garnered over 100 likes. Some even suggested in the comments that she open a TikTok account to show everyone her daily life in high society. Several mutual friends, puzzled, sent me screenshots of her Instagram with a question mark. Now, if you want to know Marcus's whereabouts, you can pretty much guess by looking at his secretary's Instagram. Everyone was intelligent. They knew when to drop hints. Previously, I was usually the one accompanying Marcus to events. If I happened to be busy or didn't want to go, his assistants would rotate. Now, his regular female companion had changed. I didn't have the presence of mind to reply to my friends' kind reminders. I simply sent a thank you emoji. At that time, I was privately asking Vance Accounting to help me with my asset division. This was a vast and complex undertaking. Due to our strategic alliance, the two groups held shares in each other. There was also the family fund I managed, and countless other investments, various real, precious, stocks, maritime, and more for some overseas estate. I even needed to see the property address and photos to roughly recall them. Organizing all these things was quite time-consuming. 12 that day, I received a call from Marcus, who had returned from a business trip. Eleanor wants us to come home for dinner. Okay. We acted as if nothing had happened. As usual, they picked Marcus up from the airport, then picked me up, and we went to Vance residence together. Marcus and Chloe, who was with him, sat in the back. They had actually left the passenger seat open for me. Chloe's schadenfreude was palpable. I laughed at my own situation, filled with anger. This time, though, I didn't assert my authority. I calmly accepted the passenger seat. Marcus's expression was cold, and the atmosphere around him was terrifyingly low. Grace, we just got back from Manhattan today. Eleanor said she wanted to see Marcus, so I just happened to buy some gifts and came along to visit her. Chloe was as talkative as ever, yet her demeanor was more mature and composed than before. She must have gained a lot of experience by Marcus's side these past few months. I said nothing, closing my eyes to rest. Chloe gave up trying to engage me. Marcus's thin lips were tightly pressed together, and he didn't speak the entire ride. 13 When saw Chloe, she was quite surprised. The girl greeted her skillfully and introduced herself. She seemed to be an expert at charming people, and in no time, she had Eleanor laughing heartily. At the dining table, Chloe chatted with Eleanor about some amusing incidents Marcus had encountered at work. Eleanor smiled, nodding with satisfaction. Then, when Eleanor asked about Marcus's personal life, Chloe deftly picked up the conversation. The atmosphere at the table clearly grew awkward. Chloe still had a dimpled smile playing on her lips. In the suddenly freezing atmosphere, she realized she had said the wrong thing. So she wasn't entirely foolish. Daily life details were questions I should have answered. Eleanor was no fool. Marcus remained silent. I elegantly wiped my mouth. Mom, I'm pregnant. Oh, really? Grace. This was incredible news. Eleanor's eyes lit up. When did this happen? The man who had been cold and silent since I got into the car now showed a rare flicker of emotion on his face. I raised an eyebrow, savoring my little prank. Just found out yesterday. The doctor said it's been 3 weeks. Eleanor was overjoyed and went to call William. She also rambled on about taking me to the hospital again tomorrow. Chloe looked surprised, her almond-shaped eyes wide and seemingly innocent. Grace, could you have gotten the timing wrong? Marcus and I have been traveling overseas for the past 2 months. Eleanor's face was filled with shock upon hearing this. No mistake? I specifically saw Professor Ginn, and it's indeed only 3 weeks. I emphasized 3 weeks. Marcus knew very well that he hadn't been home during this time. This child wasn't his. The warmth that had been on his face earlier vanished instantly. Grace, Marcus was brewing a storm that was about to erupt. Yet he suppressed it with great effort, seemingly waiting for an explanation from me. I smiled even more triumphantly. Congratulate me, Marcus. I'm going to be a mother. Don't make such jokes, he said coldly. I placed the prenatal I had prepared on the table. Unfortunately, it's not a joke. While you were away on your honeymoon with your mistress, I was overwhelmed by loneliness and sought out a few former lovers for some company. Now I don't even know who the father is. If you don't mind, I can let the child call you Dad. But he'll have to take my surname. With each sentence I spoke, Marcus's face grew colder. Enough. Until I uttered the last sentence, Marcus finally lost his temper. I ignored his rage. Marcus, how does it feel to be cuckolded? 14 Marcus never could have imagined I would blatantly cheat, then righteously announce to the world that I was carrying another man's child. I never cuckolded you. His hands clenched, veins protruding. It seemed this news had indeed impacted him significantly. We were just working. There was no crossing the line. I never cheated. I rubbed my stomach, unwilling to listen to his belated explanation. Your secretary daily flaunts her work routine with you on Instagram, Marcus. Didn't you see it? Even our friends noticed something was off and warned me. Do you still think that doesn't count as crossing the line? If you can take her out to see the stars and the moon, I can discuss poetry and philosophy and life with other men. Marcus was uncharacteristically furious. I, however, wasn't bothered, and even felt a touch of regret. It's a shame, Marcus. I didn't get a chance to bring a man back to Vance with me. Compared to your provocative actions today, I still fall short. Marcus couldn't accept it. He genuinely believed his relationship with Chloe was entirely above board. Between them, apart from work communication, there was very little interaction. He merely wanted to use Chloe to give a wake-up to those around him. He didn't understand why things had escalated to this point. Before this, he had always believed our marriage was very stable and happy. Grace, Marcus and I are innocent. In front of Eleanor, Chloe was eager to defend herself. Mrs. Vance and I had a few phone calls, and for work convenience, I took this opportunity to visit. This was all work for me. You may not have worked in an office, but as a CEO's chief secretary, you have to be meticulous in everything, and I truly haven't crossed any lines. Chloe sat beside Marcus, head held high. Is that so? On the way here, you sat next to Marcus, making Marcus's wife sit in the passenger seat. Did your meticulousness suddenly go out the window then? I exposed her without mercy. The woman was speechless, not knowing how to respond. I didn't let Marcus off the hook either. Marcus, is this the chief assistant you personally trained for 2 months? Sarah is also a woman, also your secretary. She's been with you since she graduated college. Did she ever sit beside you? She was even more meticulous than Chloe. Did I ever target her once? Marcus's breathing was ragged, and the corners of his eyes were already red. Let's get a divorce. Marcus, 15 Marcus dragged me home, leaving Chloe stranded at Vance. This was the first time he had come home since the Cold War began. The house had already been mostly cleared out by me. Even all the housekeepers had been dismissed. Marcus stopped, startled and dumbfounded. This home we had shared for 3 years now felt alien. He finally realized my divorce was premeditated. Marcus's eyes were red, disbelieving, and he hugged me tightly. Grace, I didn't cheat. His lost, low voice echoed in my ear. Get rid of the child, and we can start over. As if hearing a joke, I retorted, that's my child. Why should I get rid of it? My calmness seemed to sting Marcus's heart. I didn't do anything. You know that. I broke free from his grasp. Yes, I know. You're still pristine. But what good was that? You let Chloe come to the house to pick up your suitcase, knowing it would bother me. You brought her to every event, knowing it'd be criticized. You knew everything, but you still did it. you tacitly condone her provocations, making me humiliated, forcing me to seek reconciliation. You detested my strong arming. But Marcus, did you see how that so-called weak person repeatedly provoked my bottom line? Tears streamed down my face as I recalled everything, unable to believe my marriage was so fragile. You knew she had feelings for you, didn't you? I warned you, Marcus, a long time ago. Ignorant foolishness pales in comparison to willful transgression. Marcus's body trembled, unable to stand steady, his voice a mere whisper. I'm sorry, Grace, she always reminded me of Lily. And I was afraid Yao'd turn into one of those monsters too. Lily also had two sweet dimples. I just didn't want to see her cry. I never had any other intentions for her. Watching his repentance, my heart remained unmoved. Perhaps he was innocent. But I didn't want to foolishly hand my vulnerabilities to anyone who might harm me. 16 Marcus refused the divorce. He hired a new elite male chief assistant. He even got completely drunk in the wine. I exerted great effort to help him onto the sofa. He was a good drunk, quiet and pliable. But as I prepared to leave, he, with red eyes, wrapped his arms around me, fragile and pleading. Grace, let's not get a divorce, okay? If you want this child, then have it. As for Chloe, large corporations have their own rules and regulations. He wouldn't dismiss someone who hadn't made a mistake at work without cause. However, Marcus's deliberate aloofness undoubtedly sent a signal. His former personal assistant seemed to transform overnight from an envied lucky girl to an object of private ridicule. When found me, her former youthful radiance was gone, and no amount of makeup could hide her. I saw you at the day I started. This opening line surprised me. That day, I brought you tea and stood by your side, waiting for your further instructions. You and Marcus were discussing wedding gifts for a friend, and you didn't look at me once. The girl's face was full of scorn. Someone like Marcus, if it weren't for work, I would never have had the chance to meet. And you just happened to be born into a good family and got to marry him. That night at the auction, I told Marcus that it was disrespectful for an employee to sit in the back when the boss was driving. I said I'd switch back once I saw you. Marcus made no comment. The girl seemed to recall her earlier assertiveness. I dealt with the waiter, ordering her a coffee and dessert as well. My usual arrogance and composure stung the girl, making her eyes redder, her hatred more intense. What right do you, a rich second generation, have to look down on me? Chloe looked at me with contempt. You don't deserve Marcus's love at all. Is that so? Did you get it? I calmly watched her flounder. Her childish face struggled to maintain composure. Isn't it because I threatened you? Otherwise, why couldn't you stand it and want a divorce? I slowly stirred my coffee. Because I cheated and got pregnant with someone else's child. Didn't you already know that? Chloe was choked speechless by my words. The girl's emotions teetered on the edge of spiraling several times. What do you have to be so proud of? A bad-tempered, jobless old woman who cheated and got pregnant with another man's bastard child. Do you think Marcus would still want you? Slap. I landed a sharp slap across her face without a hint of mercy. First, no matter how old I get, I'm still 2 years younger than your beloved Marcus. Second, who do you think you are, daring to call my child a bastard? Finally, I've wanted to slap you for a long time, you idiot. 17 by the time my belly was 4 months pregnant. It was clear there was no turning back for the Vance. Under pressure from the Marcus agreed to an amicable divorce with me. The shareholdings of the two families were extensive, and the strategic partnership agreed upon initially was mutually beneficial, so our fathers felt there was no need to change it. The prenuptial asset division was very clear. Neither party had any objections. I had also meticulously organized our joint financial assets acquired during the marriage. Marcus signed the divorce agreement calmly. He was like a white crane fallen from its pedestal, its own wings broken, blood shockingly vivid, staining its once pristine feathers. We divorced with decorum, bidding each other farewell. 18 when the child was born, he took my surname, Vance. Outsiders thought he was a premature baby, but his genes were indeed excellent. Diana kept asking me who the father was. I didn't tell her. The so-called one-night stand was just a story I fabricated. But they didn't need to know. Because he was a boy, my parents no longer pressed me to go on blind dates. They planned to raise the child as their heir while they were still young. As the little grew older, he started to look more and more like his father. Free from the constraints of marriage, I had lived a life of freedom and ease these past few years. I even dated a few handsome younger boyfriends. Sarah would occasionally chat with me. From her, I heard some corporate. Chloe only lasted about half a year before she couldn't stand it and left. but everyone in this circle was well informed. No major company dared to hire her. Marcus had become even more aloof in the past 2 years, focusing entirely on his career. Every year, at the annual shareholders meeting, Robert would ask me to return here in the States to represent him. I knew what my parents were thinking. I found it amusing but was too lazy to expose them. After the meeting, Marcus would pull me into his car, claiming it was convenient to visit my parents during the holiday. Leo adored Marcus. Someone secretly taught him that this was his dad. So he would wiggle his hips, call Marcus dad, and ask for a hug every time he saw him. Marcus was very fond of him and never refused. Now that the child's features were becoming more defined, how could he not understand? I would stay here in the States with my family during the holiday. Marcus would cancel all his work to join us. He wanted to ask me if I wanted to remarry. I refused. When it comes to marriage, it's better to have nothing than to settle. Otherwise, I'd only be making myself miserable. But whenever he saw Marcus was visibly happier than usual, he always insisted on sitting between Marcus and me, giggling and constantly calling out Diana and Robert. I gently tapped the back of his head, telling him to stop calling us that. Marcus's eyes reddened, and he looked utterly lost. He had a million apologies he wanted to offer me, but I didn't need them anymore. That's all for today's story. Thank you for listening. This is my channel. The tales I share drawn from life or woven from imagination are meant to offer you connection, reflection, and perhaps solace or newfound strength. If you long to see your own reflection in others' journeys, or seek a glimmer of light within the maze of emotions, subscribe to my channel. Listen with your heart. Explore the stories of life.